Well, unfortunately, in the sport of boxing, a fighter doesn't always get paid based upon how good he is or how dominant of a champion he is, or even if the people out there believe that he is the consensus champion, that he is the best fighter in the division. So it's not always about who's the best, it's about who can draw the most eyeballs to the television set and put the most butts in the seats. And this brings me to Gennady Golovkin. Now, even though in a lot of people's opinions, and definitely my opinion, he's the best fighter in the middleweight division, he's still not the moneymaker in that division. Canelo Alvarez, I believe, is the star of boxing right now. He is the pay-per-view king now that Floyd Mayweather has retired. And whether or not that's even important or not, it definitely has an impact on the middleweight division because Alvarez is going to be the guy who is going to dictate terms to just about anyone he fights, with Gennady Golovkin being included in that. So my question is, and a lot of people have asked this question, should Golovkin stay at middleweight? Is he ever going to secure that fight with Canelo Alvarez? Is he ever going to agree to terms? Because if that fight ever does get negotiated, he's going to have to concede pretty much to Alvarez on every single point. And will he do that? Will his management team allow him to do that, or does he even want to do that himself? Number one. And number two, you have other champions out there like Billy Joe Saunders and Danny Jacobs who don't really seem too keen to get in the ring with Golovkin. They seem to be stalling. They seem to be talking about him after he has a fight signed. Then they start saying, hey, we'll fight him. And then after his fight is over, there always seems to be some type of stumbling block or something seems to come up and the fights never get made. Now, Golovkin's almost 34 years old. You know, he's in the prime of his career, but he's definitely at an age where he's turning the corner. He's not going to be young forever. So my question is, how long does he stay at middleweight? How long does he sit around and wait for these guys? And what does he do? Does he just continue to fight these mandatory fights against guys who really have no shot of beating him? With all due respect to Dominic Wade, but he's like a 10 to 1, 15 to 1 favorite over everyone he fights. After a while, are people going to want to continue to watch these one-sided beatings from Golovkin? Are the fans going to get tired of it? Are they going to lose interest? And is it going to affect Gennady Golovkin financially? Is he going to be a draw? I mean, he's drawing good numbers right now on HBO, but will that last after a while if people continue to watch these one-sided beatings? That's a question I have to ask. Now, I'm in the minority. I'm one of those people who want to see him move up to 168 because I think that a fight with James DeGale would be great. I think he could lure a fighter like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. into a fight. I think he could tempt Carl Froch to come out of retirement, and I think that would be an interesting fight. I think those will all be lucrative fights. I think they would be intriguing fights, number one. And number two, I think that Golovkin would be very good at 168. I think he's good enough to compete at 168. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, why do you want him to go up to 168? You want to see him lose. You want him to get beat up or whatever. I think that he's good enough to compete at 168. So I don't understand like why other people are underestimating Golovkin in terms of skills. If you give him the eye test, he looks like a very, very highly skilled fighter. Definitely has power in both hands, and seasoned amateur. And he's so dominant at 160 that why would anyone think that he wouldn't be competitive at 168? I mean, we've seen a lot of fighters move up in weight over the years. The greats, once they felt as though there were no challenges down in the division that they're currently in or were currently in, they moved up to a higher weight class to challenge themselves. Now, I'm not saying Golovkin has to do this, but honestly, guys, from a fan standpoint, and even somewhat from a business standpoint, why would it be so bad for him to move up to 168? Do you guys like watching non-competitive fights? Do you actually think that Billy Joe Saunders or Danny Jacobs or Canelo Alvarez are even going to get in the ring with this guy? Do you think that's actually going to happen? So my question is, Would it be such a bad thing if he moved up? And you guys actually really think that he will be able to unify the middleweight division? A division that hasn't been unified since Bernard Hopkins last did it. And I think that was back, the last time this division was unified, I think it was back in 2005 or 2006. So it's been around 10 or 11 years since this middleweight division has been unified. So why do you guys think all of a sudden that Gennady Golovkin, a guy who nobody wants to fight, is going to be able to unify this division? Because that's what people are using as an excuse for him to stay down at middleweight. Well, why can't he clean out his division? Why can't you just wait and let him unify the title? Well, I just don't think it's going to happen. And by the time it does happen, he's going to be old. He's going to be 35, 36, 37. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. So that's why I'd like to see him move up to 168 from a fan standpoint, because I'd like to see him be in more competitive fights, number one. And number two, I don't think these other champions are ever going to want to get in the ring with them. So that's just my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know, should he move up, should he stay down, and how long should he wait? And do you guys think he'll ever get that big fight with Canelo Alvarez? All right, until next time, talk to y'all soon. Peace.